Well, welcome then to the Tour of Taiwan. Screen Sport bringing you this 9-stage race, a fascinating race now in its 6th year. I'm David Duffield, and we're going to bring you the action of these stages, which will produce the winner from a very complex set of riders brought to take part in the event this year. They've come over from Europe. The Giant Europe team are here, the team from Australia, from New Zealand. I've got teams too from Indonesia, Korea, Malaysia, Saudi Arabia sent a team as well, and the team from Iran. And the Mongolians haven't turned up yet. We're expecting them to turn up later on, but at the moment they're going to miss the start, which will be a prologue time trial in Taipei. Taiwan, formerly Formosa, it's east of the mainland of China. Absolutely superb climate, by the way, a bit subtropical in the north and tropical down in the south. There are 20 million inhabitants here in Taiwan, and it's a country not only with a lot of historical place of interest, but really a really driving force in some of new modern technology and manufacturing, heavily, of course, into bicycle business and into the field of electronics as well. The riders then coming up towards the start, as ever, anxious moments for them have come to this great race with 5 kilometers here for the riders as ever. Setting off at one of the intervals, we've got 148 riders in the event this year. That team there is from Saudi, wearing the green jerseys with the colours actually worn by the points winner in the Tour de France. We're seeing some familiar jerseys, those of you who follow cycle racing, but I have to assure you they are amateurs, although various teams here are sponsored by various manufacturers. Here, Giant, one of the largest bicycle manufacturers in Taiwan, has sponsored several teams in this race, which in previous years has been a bit of a Giant benefit. In fact, in 1989, they ran out winner in that particular one, and in 1991 as well, Freddie Volsink won for Giant. So I had a couple of winners, and heading off on this 5 kilometers, number 14, that's Max van Heijswijk. And he's riding into quite a good time, and at the end of this one, a time of 7 minutes and 11 seconds will give him 3rd place. But he's tying, in fact, with one of the Japanese riders, Tamakazu. The Japanese have sent over an amateur team and a professional team as well. Now look then at the rider wearing number 1, that's Grant Rice. Wearing number 1, he was 2nd last year in the Tour of Taiwan. And where's number 1 here, riding for the Australian team. Now looking at the New Zealand riders here, Grant Rice, disappointed with his time, by the way. He finished in 41st place, that's way down the classification. Stephen James also disappointed with a time which gave him 66th place. Looking now at rider number 12, Lucien Liu from the Giant Europe team. The Dutch have come over here in great strength. Giant have got their European headquarters in Holland, and therefore they're very much involved in the sport and have brought this amateur team across. Also co-sponsored by Agu Sport that make clothing. And here, in fact, he's pulling back his Minuteman. A nice ride there. He zooms straight past the Japanese pro rider, Kazuo, and takes over a superb time of 6 minutes and 54 seconds then for Lucien Liu. Edwin Hophoff next to go, also riding for Giant Europe. He's got 6 minutes and 54 to beat. He's the captain of the Giant Europe team. Not too happy with his preparation at the start of this season. He was ill in January. Half the problem, of course, with the Europeans is that early in the season you can pick up the flu and the cold and the coughs and what have you. But here, beautiful temperature for this time trial, covering 5 kilometers. And Edwin Hophoff on his way to recording a very quick time indeed. Sucking in air, driving his bike along, riding on one of these Carax type bikes. They're very special carbon fiber. He hits the line. It's 6 minutes and 53 seconds. That puts him in the lead then. So Hophoff taking the lead for the Giant team. Certainly happy with that one. As he smiles for all concerned, and that means he moves into the leader's jersey. That's confirmation of the result. His teammate in second spot, Van Heijspijk in third. So they really are well entrenched at the top there, because that gives three of the Giant Europe teams first, second and third spot. What a start. Well, this is a ceremonial start of stage 2. It's going to take place in Taipei, stage 2. We had the prologue time trial here. Now we're going to have a circuit race, and there you are. That's 100 kilometers. And the conditions are not exactly ideal. In fact, they're far from ideal, with 148 riders in the race. You can see the spray being thrown up because the rain has now abated, but it's left a lot of damp patches on the course. And worse than that, on a town centre criterium like this one, you get diesel oil on the surface, which makes it very slippy, and you can see the white lines here that are marked, and the yellow lines too. When you get some rain on the paint, then undoubtedly the wheels, these high pressure tyres, pumped up the tubulars and the clinchers to a very high pressure. The mechanics will actually take some of the air out of them this race this time, because as you wheel your bike over on these sharp bends, then on the paint, whack, down you can go. Most of the riders don't really like a criterium race of this type so early in the tour. They're going to cover 9 stages, I say. Most of them are ranging around about 160, 170 kilometres. The longest stage of 190 kilometres on stage 7. And here with 100 kilometres, half the problem is if you crash or puncture that you can lose time. Well, of course, often allow one lap out to rejoin and losing no time, but even so, it's the loss of rhythm. And here, all in trouble. Number 2 then, Patrick Jonker, the Australian rider, in the pits. They're good. Look at his carbon fibre bike. You can see the bits of aluminium at the lugs where the carbon fibre is stuck into the lugs. They're waiting now to put him back in the race in exactly the same place as where he punctured in terms of position. And that's disrupted his activity for the day. See the massive traffic jam this race is causing on the far side. It's not a very big island, by the way, Taiwan. It's probably something about 300 miles from north to south and no more than about 20 miles across. Very small, densely packed island where General Chiang Kai-shek set up his free Chinese state away from the communists many years ago. And now Taiwan, very much the powerhouse of development in technology. The wage rates are rising, their costs are going up all the time, and here we are. They've been racing 1 hour and 58 minutes, and in the final lap now it's going to be down to a sprint. In this finishing sprint, who's going to take it on the line? Oh, that looks to me like one of the Korean riders went across the line in first place. Sung Hwan from Korea, just ahead of one of the riders from Giant Europe, looked like Van Heijspijk, and Arthur Fallenholt in third spot. Wait for confirmation of that one. You can see the grubby conditions here that these riders have had to put up with. Not going to like that at all, are they? Early in the race, he's happy about it. Well, the applause then for Sung Hwan, winner of that stage. Giving you some idea of the town in which the race is going to start. Well, the riders don't have to go down there. View of some of the back streets and some of the high-rise buildings too. Wait, doggy, till the race goes by. 148 pairs of legs to bark at. Well, a moment of relaxation for the riders for the start of the day. Fortunately, the sun has come out now. Great contrast to the miserable criterium stage. And here, the riders from Saudi deciding to amuse us with war paint. Well, let battle commence. And interesting enough, you see these crash outs, they've got covers on the helmets with the numbers on, and here the motorcycles following the riders with the spare wheels. Stage 3 it is. They're on your screens. Panchao to Shaikung, 170 kilometres. Actually, it's a fairly flat stage today, by the way. They've got a bit of a climb of Hengsan after 63 kilometres, when the climb just goes up 280 metres. Already punctures beginning to come thick and fast. Road conditions not particularly good, so that's the first one of the day. The next climb after the Hang San climb, after 63 Ks, will be Cho Lan, and that's 145 kilometers covered. And the finish after 170 kilometers is virtually downhill off that last climb. So they've got a pretty good run in of something like 25 kilometers. Already attacks going underway. So Brendan Hart here setting a hot pace, who rides for the very rich Hong Kong Nagai Hing team. And they pull together a bunch of marauders, and this team here is going to have to watch out for them, because they're marking very carefully. Number 13, Danny Stam, riding for the Giant Europe team, realised he's got to pull back that man. So Hart, a danger already on this stage 3 of the race. And so there we have number 11, Edwin Ophoff in the Racers jersey, moving to the front with his strong team, and more punctures coming thick and fast. Well, disappointment then for Patrick Jonker in this team, riding for the Australian team. Well, Patrick Jonker, in fact, was born in Holland, rides for the Australian team. Good rider, by the way, stage winner in the Tour of Ireland and the Tour of Great Britain, so some of you might have seen this ride in action, and he was 7th in the Tour of Taiwan last year. And of course he rode in the Barcelona game, but not his lucky day. Oh, snore for these riders too. Some of the riders here, a little bit, I think, unused to riding in such big fields. One thing about this Tour of Taiwan is bringing together riders from the East Asia, where they are not perhaps so competent as the Europeans on handling the bikes, but they're certainly learning very quick indeed. And one thing they're learning here, that we can have our own equivalent of the Paris-Roubaix. Punctures coming thick and fast again. These are not very good conditions for these very highly inflated tyres, and even more trouble yet again. Arthur Faronhout of the Giant Europe team, waiting for a front wheel. Takes around about 20 seconds maximum. You see the quick release mechanism, they just drop it out, and more trouble. No, in fact, I think he's just got a slight touch of cramp. That's one of the problems when you have to stop and change a wheel, that your muscles can seize up just a little bit. He didn't actually get off the bike to get that front wheel replaced, and perhaps just stretch the muscle a little bit. In fact, another puncture coming up. This is not a lucky day then for the Giant Europe team whatsoever. And this time, in fact, the puncture being had by Max van Heijswijk. Nobody's dropped back to help him, by the way. They're more interested in looking after the overall race leader, Lucien Love, to make sure that he's kept in contention on this stage, which is stage 3 of the race. Well, right collection of wheels there. And Brendan Hart, always active on today's stage, showing yet again at the front the strong Nagai Hing team of Graham Miller, Rick Reed, a previous winner in the race, Chris Barn is with them, and they've also got Hui Chak Bo riding for them. But I think their hopes for race success must come from Brendan Hart, Rick Reed, a previous winner, or Graham Miller. And oh, off goes his chain. Pulled the gear system completely to pieces at the back. It looks like he's lost the roller. And there was no service vehicle with him on that break. He was away at the front, but they only sent a motorcycle up with spare wheels, and that is no use at all when you've gunged your gear up like that. He'll be very disappointed.
What's happened?
The front derailleur out of the frame. What's happened? It's naked now.
Well, he's expressed his own opinions of what's gone wrong. He'll not be a happy man, but waiting for the following vehicles with spare bikes so they can get back in the action. And the Nagai Hing team will not be happy with that one. They're certainly well supported from Hong Kong with plenty of cash to ensure this team was put together strong to contest the overall success of this, the 1993 Tour of Taiwan. Look at the New Zealanders on the front, black and white jerseys, strong there, trying to control it on the feed station. And here they are, the Ninghai team up towards the front yet again, and Rick Reed there. The New Zealanders coming close. They begin to break this one up. The pressure's on. So we've got a bit of a group beginning to form at the front. Jamie Kelly, Australian rider, took part in the Olympic Games in there at the moment. This nice little working group. Just drifting through off the front there, number 6, Stephen James from New Zealand. And there, Ophoff has marked the move. The overall race leader spotted that one. Looks very calm, very cool, very collected. Legs 11, number 11 it is. And this is the team they've got to watch out for. Looking down there, Graham Miller. And Miller beginning to force the pace. Well, he's got away. Miller has got away from this little group at the moment, and they're going to have to try and work hard because Miller is a very, very strong man indeed, and they recognise the danger and are putting on the pressure to pull him back then. Graham Miller, New Zealand road race champion, 86, 89, right the way through for 3 years, a very dominant rider in New Zealand, track champion as well, so he's got a fair old sprint. As those who may have seen the Olympic Games in Seoul, remember when he took 3rd place in that big bunch sprint, then right at the moment he's away. I always wondered why Graham hasn't turned pro actually, because Olaf Ludwig, winner of the Olympic Games in '88, turned pro. Very great success since then. Graham, 3rd in the Olympics, stays back as an amateur, and here he is. I've seen him do very well in England as well, this fella. Commonwealth Games champion, beginning I think to struggle right now on these climbs. I think he'd rather be happily in the pack for a sprint, but he's away at the moment. Coming up to 33 years of age this year, Graham. But that's still quite young for some bike riders with stamina. Ludwig must be in his, early 30s as well. Look at the conditions. Well, one thing about a developing country like Taiwan, it has to keep building new roads. And here, a puncture at the back then. Oh dear, that's Arthur Farrenhout from Holland, riding for the Giant Europe team. He's not going to be happy with that at all either. He's got to ride through the dust. See the conditions being kicked up by these vehicles. And Miller on the front. And he's got a lead now of close on 2 minutes, by the way, as he comes across the finishing line. Miller's won that one. He stayed away. Miller, the lead of something like 2 minutes, and big gallop coming in from behind. Low in the Giant Europe team, thrust towards the line there, and looks like he got 2nd place, but Miller's very happy with that one.
Yeah, it's just, there's so much roadworks, it just wasn't funny, you know, like coming in the last 20k, I was just hoping that I wasn't going to puncture.
Well, he didn't puncture, he got the success. Final hill. It's Taichung to Alishan, and they're covering today these 172 kilometres. The first 100 kilometres relatively flat, started just 80 metres above sea level, but the finish of this race up there in the mist is 2,174 metres above sea level, and they've got 72 kilometres to go, and it's all uphill. Well, the Mongolian riders have been allowed into the race despite the fact that they missed out the first 3 stages because they couldn't get their visas in time. They've let them in, they won't count overall. I think that's a nice gesture to these riders, and Yashnyam has already set a hot pace at the front. And here he is then, Yashnyam being caught by a very active group and begin to force the pace at the front. And there, Tony Morfitt from Australia reeled him in. There's going to be some interesting tactics, I'm sure, on this long climb. It's one of those climbs where you just keep the speed up and just hope to wear people down the back. That gives you a wonderful idea of this superb mountain. Slightly overcast, a bit misty at the top. Sun came through on the early part of the race, but now up in the mountains, getting chillier. Way back down those hairpins, the rest of the field, we only got about 30 in the lead. 1, 2, 3, 4 begin to drift off. There was something like 140 riders still in the race at the start of today's stage. The cream, as they say, is coming to the top of the bottle. And good riding then by the Giant Europe team, these riders from Holland at the front, pushing the pace. And here, there's the turn up for the books yet again. This Mongolian rider, 143 up there with them. Dashnyam. The white jersey, by the way, with 3M on them, that's the Russian team. There's a team of Russian riders. In fact, they've got at least 2, if not 3 men in this breakaway group at the moment. So Russians also taking part. The majority of the competitors having come from Asia, but nevertheless, strong European riders as well taking part in the race. And Graham Miller's jersey under threat. I think Graham would be the first to accept, as he opened up today's stage, that he's not the world's greatest mountain climber. Comes from New Zealand, but not riding for the New Zealand team. Just a quick look down at Stephen James, and you see the pace is beginning to tell. Look at the concentration. Well, they're prizing themselves away from the rest of the field. We've got a nice little group here, and again, Giant Europe begin to ride well with the team, with the leader here, Graham Miller, on general classification. Still up there with them. Miller's doing a good job at the moment. I'm not quite sure, looking back, the New Zealand rider, whether he's decided to sink his team in favour of helping Miller, but Miller is losing contact, and this lot at the front are beginning to go away. This is the break that's going to matter. Well, what's happened to Miller? He's blown now. Rick Reed here from the Gai Hing team in Hong Kong is with that little group. And Miller also rides to the Gai Hing team, but I think Reed's been sent up to mark that group of 4 men at the moment. Reed, winner of this race in 1990 when he's riding for the New Zealand team. Grant Rice from Australia. Well, this is an interesting group we've got here at the front at the moment. Grant Rice, Arthur Fongenholt, Rick Reed and Lucien Lowe. That is Grant Rice, wearing number 1. He was second last year in the race, so he knows his way around Taiwan. And powerful rider too. Really stretching the field. Looks like it's a chance for him to begin to move up the general classification. This could be the one that matters, because riders back down the mountain are now losing minutes, not seconds. And even these 4 just cannot stick together. Lucien Liu hanging on at the back here. Grant Rice just up in front of him, wearing number 1. And they're pulling back the other 2 members of this escaping group. Arthur Fongenholt from Giant Europe, and Rick Reed in the yellow jersey. They're back. Well, he doesn't look too happy with this, does he? He's really having to hang on here, Lucien Liu. He's beginning to lose contact with those 3 men, and already the gap to the riders behind him is getting to be over 2 minutes. And Miller, the yellow jersey, is losing a lot of time. He's now at the moment something in excess of 6 minutes down. He's really dropping off the back. Miller stuck with him earlier on, but Graham Miller now hovering in the top 20, but he's not with this 4-man group, so his yellow jersey is going to disappear from him. It's a battle between these 4 now. Who's going to win this stage? A quick attack. That's Arthur Fongenholt, marked by Rice. Well, the beautiful thing here about the Giant Europe team is that they've got 2 men in this break at the moment, so Arthur Fongenholt and Lucien Liu can in fact take it in turns to attack the rest of the riders. I rather think at the moment that Lucien Liu is having difficulty hanging on to pace. There he goes again. Taking it in turns, whack, 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 and off they go. And still though, Delow, I think he's struggling at the back. Grant Rice has got to respond. Fongenholt away. It looks like Lucien Liu, in fact, isn't going to be a threat now. It's between these 2. Being in the saddle now for well over 4 hours of racing. And what a finish. With just 1 kilometre to go, and Arthur Fongenholt, it looks like he's mistimed that one. They're using all the road. The traffic is not being stopped totally. They'll have to watch this one. And Rice is back with him. Half a kilometre to go, it's still uphill. Well, the longer version of some of the finishes at Tour de France here, it's not like the Alpe d'Huez at all, but it's their own local equivalent of it. But this is 72 kilometres, a hell of a long climb up, and Rice has gone. So Grant Rice then is away now. What a strong rider he is, winner of the Tour of Tasmania in Australia last year, and he came 10th in the Olympic Games road race in Barcelona, so he's a very strong man indeed. And Rice looks now like he's managed to get away. He's riding in toward the finish, and the rest can do nothing about it. Good ride indeed, that one. Look at that, nobody in sight. Absolutely exhausted. There, Fahrenheit, also in a terrible state. Look at the state of these riders coming up here. This really is the day that's going to decide this 1993 Tour of Taiwan. Well, Billy Hagmans, the team manager of the team, looking after his men who are in a just terrible state. Just shows the pressure they were under on that climb.
Oh, the last kilometres were very hard. When I got across to the main break, I knew they'd be a little bit tired, but I was very tired too. Yeah.
Well, tired he won, and when you win, you're full of elation. But look at the state of some of these riders coming in now. I'm sure that many of them never expected to be this tough coming across here, but they'll learn. That's one thing about bike racing. That Kaohsiung, it's a very big harbour town in the south of Taiwan. We've got virtually as far down as the race is going to go tomorrow, a little bit of a curve down to the very southern tip before it starts to move back up north, but right up alongside the sea and another of these circuit races. And thank goodness the sun is shining today, much better than the circuit race we had in Taipei. One or two tired legs won't be happy, I think, with the speed of this circuit race, but plenty of wide roads, dry conditions. Just hang on, chaps. They've got a rest day after stage 8. Here's the first sprint.
Trouble using
well, look like Rick Reed.
I had to ride mainly with one leg, but I think I'm all right.
You twisted ankle in the fall?
Yeah, I think so.
What happened exactly?
I was going around the corner at the end there, and I got a bit tight, and the yellow jersey nearly came off, and he put his foot down, and I sort of crashed in the back of him, and I came down.
Well, there we are. He crashed, but he still got to finish. All days from steel was to braze or weld the tubes together, and here these carbon fibre tubes are stuck into aluminium lugs and glued into position. Makes them very light, by the way, extremely light, and with a lot of strength as well. And then the finishing touches, the nice spraying and the hand building. This is the what I call the quality end of the bicycle market, and destined there in the special boxes to be exported far and wide. So Mr. King, the chairman of the Giant Board of Directors, is also chairman of the Taiwanese Cycling Federation, out to watch the race, and the workers turning out in large numbers for this stage 7 of the race, covering 190 kilometres. And no, Eddie Merckx is not riding. That's number 17. That's Rick Reed with a damaged ankle after his crash yesterday. Look at one or two of the riders. Number 18, Brendan Hart, who's already been in there with stage successes. And yesterday's stage, by the way, in all that kerfuffle at the finish, Graeme Kelly burst out the pack to win that one, just ahead of the Taipei rider Shen Si, and the Korean rider Juan was third, and Okaner of the Philippines in 4th spot. And the Mongolian rider also was 4th equal, so that just shows these lads are beginning to take shape. And Lucien Liu in the leader's jersey came in with the main pack, so he's the one that the team with the white jersey with the blue spots on it, the Giant Europe team, have got to defend today on this stage 7. Quite nice day, good conditions of bike racing, and a fairly undulating course as they're now circuiting round the southern tip of Taiwan. They're moving back up country to the finish at Taitung. And virtually they started on the west coast of the country. They're going to finish on the east coast side. And the attacks are coming already. Pressure's on. Close up there, number 36, that's Shen Si from Taipei, who had that good attempt yesterday to try and win the stage, finishing second spot. And Graham Miller it is that's gone away again. This man never says die. He took an awful pasting on the big climb up on stage 4. That really was the end as far as he's concerned, but I think he's desperate to try and get more stage successes, and he's gone away from the group now. So running alongside the China Sea, and now back on the Pacific there. Miller on one of these titanium bicycles. Actually, we looked at carbon fibre a bit back in the Giant factory, and Graham's riding on a titanium, which again is very light and very strong titanium, but you have to weld it in a vacuum. It's not the sort of thing you can easily weld, and not only that, it's very hard metal, and when they're cutting it, they have to miter the tubes so that they can actually weld them together. You have to have special cutters because it's such strong material. It's been used by quite a number of bike riders now, but it's very expensive. You're looking at the thick end of, anywhere up to nearly £1,000 for a frame. So Miller still setting the pace at the front, second group chasing after him. On the Russians there, 3M. They're going well in the team at the moment. They've certainly been putting 2 or 3 riders up near the front, but haven't managed to get to challenge the yellow jersey. Back then with Grant Rice, winner of that hilly stage up the climb on stage 4. Yellow jerseys going through from the Hong Kong team. Graham Miller that day finished, 4:57, and he lost something like about 8 minutes down. And here we then on the sprint down, they've got Graham Miller, I think, back in the pack now. Oh, yes, so they have, and so across the line then, that looks like, yes, it was a Korean ride. That's turned out to be the to nip over the rails, like sometimes happens, stop the whole of the field. And on this one, Taichung to Huailian, it's 180 kilometers, and this one is flat. So perhaps another day for the sprinters to show. There, the Korean rider coming in ahead of Stam to win that stage. That was, I think, a good ride by the Koreans who, as I said earlier, the program started out when we had the first tour of Taiwan by being first and second way back in 1988, and they won the team in 88 and 89. So they've been quite strong in this race, the Korean riders. Don't see much of them in Europe. Well, the field's sticking together. I think they're looking for a sprint finish today. Perhaps the Korean riders might have more success. But the Giant Europe team have got to keep this, the lid on this one to defend the yellow jersey of the overall leader, Lucien Delot, and that's him. So Delot just right up the front, staying out of harm's way, looking back for the rest of his team to come through. So a nice little group here. Well, Delot's doing the right thing. He's putting the pressure on the rest of his opponents, but he won't want to stay on the front all the time. Moving back off there again, one of the Russian riders, 133, Valery Dalyuk from the 3M team. What they've done with some of these amateur riders, they sponsored the teams, various manufacturers and associates in Taiwan to pay the expenses to bring them across. You can imagine they've had to bring some riders an awful long way to get here. And it's not cheap to put on a bike race like this one, especially running over 9 days, including one rest day as well. Number 39, quick look there at the rider from Taipei, and that's An Haixiang. Mongolian rider showing at the front yet again. So Dashian, it might be interesting if only they got here in time to see what they would have done in this race overall. And away yet again. This looks like one of the Giant Europe riders is going away, and he's chosen just the right moment to go, and Danny Stam has gone away now. The Mongolian rider isn't quite certain whether to chase him down. Come on through, he wants them to go through and help him in the chase. Certainly he's learned his tactics right, he's dropped in, he's got to drive the rest along. So in fact, it's Park Jia-young who's closing down on Stam. So Park Jae-young is going to catch him, so they're getting close to finish now, and he's gone past Stam. Sam didn't see him coming, but he's picking up the speed now. Oh, he's closing him down. The gap. Something in at least 30 seconds. They're not going to get him. They're on the outskirts of the town now. In Huailian, and Stam has moved on the inside. Ah, well, he wants him to work with him. He says, come on, let's stay away here. So Park Jae-young from Korea wants him to work as well, take it in turns. Well, they're going to sprint down the finishing straight. He's going to get this one on the left-hand side. Stam the Korean on the right-hand side. And the Korean gets it. Oh, Stam will be disappointed.
Niet echt. Ik wil gewoon die vreemd rijden als een keer 2 en 3 en voor de rest kort erbij zitten.
Well, he said no, he's satisfied with third place yesterday and second place today, but he preferred victory instead. But the most important thing, however, is that I start to get in shape, and that'd be perfect preparation for the Dutch Classics in a few weeks' time. It's in the harbour town of Keelung. Of course, Taiwan very well known for its fish food, and oh, a bit narrow here, isn't it? I think that caught a few of them by surprise. Oh, got his gears entirely wrong then, and that was Rick Reed. He'll work his way back through, though. Strong rider, riding for that Hong Kong Nagai Hing team. Well, you can see how this country's grown, all the signs of industrial growth, the concrete flyovers, the trains, the buildings, the dense population, 20 million people here in Taiwan, a very small little island. And of course what's happened with the Taiwan cycle industry, they really got on the back of the boom of BMX bikes. They never really got into the road racing scene very much. Then mountain bikes came along and has been a bit of a saviour to them. Of course they have to fight now against the 17% duty which is inflicted on complete bikes being exported into Europe, and what, 8% on the components. So they're having to battle quite hard, the Taiwanese, but they've been full of innovation over the years, particularly on the back of the booms of the knobbly tired stuff from BMX and mountain bikes. But when it comes to racing, well, I think we'll find some of their riders and the rest out in the east beginning to make progress on 2 very narrow wheels. But of course Japan has been the forerunner in challenging Europe for componentry. Some of the Italian manufacturers who dominated with the French have found, feel like Shimano are chasing them hard, and I wonder how long it'll be before Taiwan really starts to work hard on the components as well, rather than the frame side, which they've been specialising so much. Now, a good look at our overall race leader. Well, I'm rambling on about bike manufacture, because he comes from Holland, where the 11 million population rides something like about 1 million bikes a year. There's Graham Miller from New Zealand. Very sparse population there. They've only got about 3 million people. God knows how many bikes they ride out there, but it just shows you it brings all sorts together to ride bikes from across the world. The Russians in the background there. And what this fellow's got to do in this yellow jersey is stay out of trouble too, because with 1 or 2 riders who perhaps want to chance their arm getting up near the front, they can bring him down, so his team will be with him. And of course conditions like this, see how they're switching, that's the danger. So he's got to go to the front. Yellow jersey must stay up the front, out of trouble. And what I say, problems already. And I can't quite think why he's going for a bit of a run, unless, oh, see, the motorcycles have gone by with the wheels. Oh, he's found one. That was very bad. They didn't spot him on the side of the road. So Deluk from the Russian team, the 3M Russian team, is having to run for his spare wheel. Bad luck. Well, Brent Rice, number 1, stage winner up the big climb of stage 4. Is now beginning to get away from this little lot. He's pulling, see how the string is thinned out. As ever, the spectators on the side of the road applauding the efforts of these riders. It really is beginning to break now. So Fahrenheit beginning to put the pressure on the front as well. This lad's been full of life, hasn't he? But he's had to ride to look after his teammate here who's on his wheel. And they've got away quite nicely. Well, that's the good move then by Lucien Delot to put the pressure on the rest of the field, keep out of trouble. I said earlier on, they're one of the Mongolian riders as well. That's a good route. That's Jasnyam again, 143. This character, with 2 kilometres to go, has been very much the activator, and the finish here is up the top of a climb. It's 120 kilometres to the bottom of the climb. We've got this climb all the way up, and the top is just 800 metres high, but they really do have quite a tough climb to get to the top. So Carlton Johnson from New Zealand leading the chasers. There, Graham Miller and Grant Rice in this little group. Oh, Brendan Hart's got away from this little lot. That's the right off the front there in the yellowish colour. And is he going to get the stage? He has. Hart then happy with that one. Just gone away the last kilometre. And the Mongolian rider coming in second spot. So Jasnyam takes second. But Hart it was with the victory. Miller coming in. There's the final. So there, the yellow jersey, just off the shot. Look at him, he's thanking his teammate for the help he's got. So undoubtedly, he was tough and he could have, I think, got away, but he did protect him. Miller saying, there you go.
Die jongens hebben ontzettend sterk gereden. Ze hebben de hele koers op kop zitten rijden. Ja, en ik blijf mooi 4e, 5e wieltje zitten. Dat is perfect. Was er nog gevaar te doen?
Well, that's it, lads. Another race over and done with. And how does Lucien Delot feel about that?
Kijk, in dit geval gebeurt het met hem, hij krijgt een lekker band.
Well, I dedicate this victory to our giant Europe team. They helped me a lot. Perfect team.
En je hebt er wel een sterke ploeg voor om terug te rijden.
And the last stage was quite dangerous. The Japanese rider in second place was close. So that Japanese rider, by the way, had a puncture towards the end, so he lost time, and that could have happened to even this man in the yellow jersey. But it didn't. His strong team helped him across
second victory
the line.
here. Strong rider.
Yeah, it was great. We planned from the start of the day to get the stage win no matter what happened, and halfway up the hill I was really I thought, shit, I don't know if I could do it, but towards the top I was really thinning out and a lot of guys were getting tired. I think it was a Mongolian who jumped away before the K-board, 2K I think, and I waited until about a K to go and then jumped and caught him with only about 250 metres to go. 250 metres felt like 2K though.
So Brendan Hart got that victory then for his team, and congratulations to him then. Winner of 2 stages in the Tour of Canada, good all-rounder, King of the Mountains, Tour of Taiwan last year, and 3rd in the Tour of New Zealand. So he knew what it's all about, but he didn't win overall. That went to Lucien Delot, who really had a dominant team. So we're going to close the programme with a look at some of the nightlife in Taipei. We hope you enjoyed our coverage here on Screen Sport of the Tour of Taiwan. And there we are then. For myself, David Duffield, time for us to say bye-bye, and hope you've enjoyed the coverage of this, the 6th event of the Tour.